Spoiler alert, if you want to watch The Tomorrow War, I saw it on Amazon Prime Video. Pause this, go watch the movie, come back. Final warning for spoilers for The Tomorrow War. The Tomorrow War came out July 2nd on Amazon Prime Video, directed by Chris McKay, written by Zach Dean. Hello Seeker, welcome to episode 3 of Answering the Question. The question for this discussion is, did the humans win at the end of the Tomorrow War? The answer is no. The Whitespikes overran the oil rig close to Port Nelson, where the jump link was located, eliminating the future army's recruiting and war effort. But killing the Whitespikes in the past and destroying the alien ship did not create a grandfather paradox. I will explain evidence of this later in the video and why the movie and the greenlit sequel are part of what I think is a time loop. So first, the grandfather paradox. If you go back in the past and you kill your grandfather, you'll cease to exist because your parents would cease to exist since your grandfather is now dead. So in the movie, this paradox was not evident. So first we have a couple of questions that are somewhat sub-questions that will point out either plot holes or reasons why I believe the future army was not completely honest and open with the past army and society. In December 2022, biology teacher and former Green Beret Dan Forrester fails to get a job at a prestigious research center. During the broadcast of the World Cup, soldiers from the year 2051 arrive to warn that humanity is on the brink of extinction due to a war with alien invaders referred to as the Whitespikes. The Whitespikes will arrive in November 2048 and kill the majority of humanity within 3 years after their arrival. In response, the world's militaries are sent into the future via a wormhole device called the jump link, but fewer than 30% survive their 7-day deployment, prompting an international draft. Dan receives a notice that he has been drafted, and when he tells his wife, she says they should run and talks Dan into visiting his estranged father, a mechanical engineer, for helping in removing the draft band attached to his arm. Dan's father left him and his mother after he returned from the Vietnam War because he felt it was dangerous to remain with them. But Dan says he does not want his help and calls him a coward, then leaves. I believe that in the sequel, Dan is going to leave his wife and his daughter for the same reason that his father did when his father returned from the Vietnam War. Dan was unsatisfied with his life and the fact that he didn't get the job. I do believe that he really didn't want a normal life and didn't want to run with his wife and daughter out of fear of being a failure. I do believe that Dan deep down decided to subconsciously wanted to go to the future war to feel that his life had purpose. Dan reports to basic training with other draftees where they are briefed from future soldiers about the Whitespikes. Dan deduces with fellow draftee Charlie that to prevent a paradox, those drafted have already died before the war starts and those who have come from the future haven't been born yet. The draftees are sent forward in time to a battlefield on Miami Beach, but few survive, having accidentally been dropped high above the city. And I believe that the reason why they were accidentally dropped is because the humans, when they salvaged the technology from the crashed spaceship that was in 946 AD, because that technology was flawed and caused the aliens to crash, the humans, not fully understanding the technology, can only recreate what was already there. They could only recreate and reproduce faulty technology from the aliens, and that's the reason why they were accidentally dropped. I do believe that this is not the first time they accidentally dropped different people who were deploying, but the movie only shows this deployment. The other ones were the same way. Or there were instances where there was some type of accident that took place. We're not allowed to see any of the other deployments, so I don't believe that they were smooth sailing. I do believe that even if they had them on the ground floor of, let's say, the beach or on the city, they would have been falling on pavement. It wouldn't have been a smooth transition due to the fact that the technology was faulty when they recovered it from the alien ship. Romeo Commander Colonel Forrester orders the draftees to rescue nearby lab personnel before the area is sterilized. They discover the lab personnel are already dead but recover their research. Dan radios command about the situation and he is told that no help will be sent to rescue the stranded troops. Nearly everyone dies except for Charlie, Dan, and Dorian, a battle-hardened soldier on his third deployment to the future. The survivors wake wake up in a military encampment in Dominican Republic. Dan reports to Colonel Forrester, who turns out to be his grown daughter Miri. She requests he accompany her on a mission to capture a female Whitespike, which are rarer than the males typically encountered. They trap and cage the female, only to have hundreds of males descend on their position. As the helicopter with the female lifts off, Dan and Miri escape to a beach and radio for rescue. Miri reveals to Dan that, dissatisfied with his life after losing the job, he abandons his family and dies in a car crash in 2030. Dan, Miri, and the female Whitespike are transported to a fortified oil rig close to Port Nelson, where the jump link is located. Miri creates a toxin that can kill the Whitespikes. The Whitespikes attack and overrun the base to free the female. Miri sacrifices herself to send Dan back to the past. Although he returns to 2023 with the toxin, the jump link is destroyed. The world interprets the jump link's destruction as a sign that the future war is lost. While Dan brainstorms with his wife, Emmy, she deduces that the Whitespikes did not arrive in 2048, but came much earlier. Dan consults with Charlie and Martin, a high school student with an interest in volcanoes, and they theorize that the Whitespikes have been on Earth since at least the Millennium eruption in the year 946 AD, and global warming caused them to thaw out and emerge from under the ice caps. After the United States Defense Secretary declines to use military resources to prove the theory, Dan leads a mission to Russia with Charlie, Dorian, and a few surviving future soldiers, and his estranged father, James, to take matters into their own hands. The team finds a crashed alien ship at the Academy of Sciences glacier on Komsomolets Island. They debate telling the world about the problem, but decide to end the threat themselves. I believe that in other timelines, they don't tell the world what they discovered, but I do believe that word gets out that they were there, and other people go to search for the ship, and that's how the ship's technology is found. And when the ship's technology is found, that's when the humans start to reverse engineer it and create the jump links. It's somewhat of a time loop in that there's always someone going back to the past, finding the ship and destroying it, and there's either remains of the ship or other ships, and that stuff is discovered from the explosion of someone monitoring the Academy of Sciences glacier on the island. With this theory, if it's true, that means it doesn't matter what events take place. Even if you change a couple of variables, the constant is always going to be someone going back to the past, destroying the ship, killing the Whitespikes, someone else seeing the explosion and the activity there. A team of people go out there to see the remains of what happened. They get the technology, they reverse engineer it, and we have the jump links in the future. However, once everything is thawed out, the Whitespikes that were not killed and the ships that were not discovered, they unthaw. Aliens communicate with the humans. Humans betray the aliens. Humans take the Whitespikes and unleash them, or the aliens take the Whitespikes and unleash them, so on and so forth, and we have a time loop. Once inside, they debate telling the world about the problem, but decide to end the threat themselves. They realize the Whitespikes are not the aliens themselves, but rather bioengineered organisms, possibly used as planet-clearing weapon or by the alien race. The team injects 5 of the dominant Whitespikes with a toxin. This kills the injected ones but wakes the rest of the colony, and most of the team is killed. Dorian, terminally ill with cancer and wanting to die on his own terms, stays behind to blow up the ship with C4, and the explosion kills all but one of the Whitespikes. Dan and his father hunt and kill the one female that had escaped, leaving them and Charlie as the team's only survivors. Content knowing that the war is averted and humanity is saved, Dan brings James home to meet his wife and daughter, determined not to make the same mistakes that Murray had warned him about from her future. So every 6 days, the Whitespikes rest and nests, and that's when the future army inserts troops. So why were the Whitespikes not resting when the movie begins? The future soldiers said if the public saw pictures or video of the Whitespikes, it would be impossible to fill the hangar. Why would the past society work with the future soldiers with limited information about an enemy they are outmatched by and losing to? Why not jump the people from the future to the past and just stay there? Those who go from the present to the future die, so there can't be a logical paradox since your new death is different than your old. Also, when the jump link in the future is destroyed, the past soldiers are stuck in the past. None of them disappear, like Back to the Future time travel rules. Especially those who die right after the jump. And the future was forever changed when the Whitespikes and aliens on the ship were killed in the past. That's if all of them were killed in the past. Also, Colonel Murray Foster, straight up went to her dad, Dan, and was okay with him knowing who she was, his daughter, even though a paradox could have been created. Back to the Future rules are, if you go back to the past and you change something, that changes or eliminates the current timeline, automatically creates another one, an alternate timeline. In this movie, neither the grandfather paradox rules or Back to the Future rules applied. What I believe is this movie is going off of the same time travel rules as Marvel's Avengers Endgame, in that when you go from your present to the past, that past becomes your new future. And unless you leave everything exactly as it was, it creates an alternate reality. And the reason being is because the future soldiers were in the past for at least 3 deployments. One deployment was 7 days, so 3 would be 21, and there wasn't a paradox. Also, when the jump link is destroyed, the soldiers in the past, they don't disappear. What we're seeing in the movie is an alternate reality. There is no way to know, because the future army gave the past army and society limited information based off what we view. The future lieutenant who showed up in the stadium was in the present for at least 3 deployments, 21 days, and never jumped back to the future that we can see, unless there are dozens of plot holes created on purpose or accidental that will be tied up in the greenlit sequel. I believe the future army is lying about majority of the details. The reason they could not build more rafts is because they did not understand the technology. No one verified the actual year the past soldiers jumped to. We are told it's 2051, but how do we really know? Before setting out to find a crashed alien ship at the Academy of Sciences glacier on Komsomolets Island, how did Lieutenant Hart know that First Sergeant Dan Forrester and Colonel Murray Forrester may have been related to ask for sure if they were related? When the lieutenant went up to Dan, she was asking, were they related? But she didn't know for sure. People in the military will have the same last names all the time, but a connection has to be made to know if people are related. I believe, and this is going to sound crazy, but the same way the movie starts with the past soldiers crashing on the beach and hitting the building is the same way the aliens crash landed in their ship. The alien ship's technology malfunctioned, in my opinion, was damaged or sabotaged, so they crashed. The humans who recovered the tech, or the future army, would have malfunctioning technology that would also cause jump linkers to crash. See where I'm going with this? I believe the aliens who crash landed in 946 AD or earlier were trying to warn the past humans that the humans in the future unleashed the Whitespikes after working with the aliens. It would not make sense for aliens to unleash the Whitespikes to clear the planet, then turn around and clear the Whitespikes. The aliens would just clear the humans the same way they would have cleared the Whitespikes if the Whitespikes were released. I believe due to human savage nature and wanting war, the aliens went to the past, were unsuccessful in working with humans, and kept jumping back every, let's say, 100 years until the crash land in 946 AD. And there could have been more than one ship a part of an evacuation, scouting, attack, recon, or anything. The past humans had guessed at where the alien ship might have been, and they got lucky. But they found one ship and stopped, because when the ship was destroyed, Dan and his father killed the female Whitespike. They didn't have any more resources or energy to go hunting for more ships. If the governments would have assisted, they would have been able to find more ships if there were more, or any other Whitespikes or aliens that may have been just out and about. My theory is Roswell, New Mexico, where alien ships crashed, trying to warn the past humans of what happened in the future to prevent it. And so every time aliens would contact humanity, we'd either shoot down the ship, they'd crash land for some reason, or they would try to communicate with us, but we were too savage in nature, and they figured we'll go further in the past to try to communicate with humans when they're less savage. But the farther you go back into human history, not only are we more primitive the farther you go back, but we're even more savage. Because the aliens, if they're working with us in the future and we turn on them, if they have the ability to go to the past to warn us and perhaps change the future, they would go from one raft to the next, and they would keep going back in time from raft to raft to raft, hoping that they'd be able to meet humanity at a point where we're open-minded and able to talk to. However, we were more than likely primitive, more savage in nature, and wanted to harm them as opposed to work with them. If they were planet-clearing weapons, then the Whitespikes would have to be cleared. It would just make more sense for the aliens just to clear out the humans. It is possible that they had something to clear out the Whitespikes after the Whitespikes had eliminated whatever life was there. I just find it hard to believe that the aliens with their technology would have the ability to clear out Whitespikes but not clear out humans. I believe that they're not planet clearing weapons or cattle, but maybe they were like both. Let's say you want to get rid of flies and you want to get rid of other smaller bugs. There are people, believe it or not, they will take spiders, unleash the spiders to get rid of the small bugs, and then turn around and spray a chemical to kill the spiders. The chemical could kill the small bugs, but because the small bugs can fly, they may be able to outmaneuver the actual chemical. But having spiders there would eliminate a lot of the small bugs, especially the ones that fly. Now, I know this sounds odd to not just let off like a bomb that can take out the small bugs. That way you don't have to worry about dealing with spiders, because spiders can be perceived as worse than the small bugs. But that's kind of the logic the movie wants us to believe with the Whitespikes being spiders, and what's on the planet, which would be humans, would be like flies. I do believe that they have a purpose other than clearing planets and maybe just being cattle just for the sake of being cattle. I believe that the Whitespikes have a purpose. It just wasn't known in the movie. Unfortunately, the future society, the future army didn't give much of an explanation as to what the Whitespikes were doing, more than likely because when the Whitespikes showed up, they were immediately at war, so they weren't able to really research exactly what the Whitespikes could do. We didn't see any mating in the movie. It was just told to us that the larger Whitespikes were female, the smaller ones were male. Why wouldn't there be more female? We don't know how the Whitespikes reproduced. We don't know why there was a smaller number of females as opposed to thousands of males, why the female was the leader. There's a lot of information that we're not given, and I do believe that the Whitespikes had another purpose besides clearing weapons and just simply being cattle. Hopefully in the sequel we'll find out what is the purpose of the Whitespikes. The United States Defense Secretary declines to use military resources to prove Dan's theory, and other governments more than likely would try to weaponize the aliens against other nations. The aliens are not our biggest threat, however we are. If you notice, there are no elderly people in the future, just young soldiers. I believe the bioengineering was not just done by the aliens, but humans as well. We don't see any children, and you could say it's because all the civilizations are either on other continents, hiding, or dead, but I don't believe this. I believe at a certain point, the future army drafted everyone. In the future, the humans and the aliens met and started exchanging information. The aliens showed the humans the Whitespikes, and some humans used the Whitespikes against the aliens and other humans. There's always going to be alien ships, and there's always going to be Whitespikes. No matter how many times someone goes back in the past and destroys a ship, there's always other ships, there's other Whitespikes, there's always aliens. The aliens weren't running around like the Whitespikes were. When the humans took the Whitespikes and used them against another country or another army, the Whitespikes were no longer able to be controlled. In the laboratory scene, there are lots of vials, and it's more than likely that entire laboratory was used for research for the Whitespikes. The Colonel wanted something to kill the Whitespikes, whereas I believe the research in the past was to understand the Whitespikes, and that more than likely would be explored in the sequel. No matter how many jump links are created to go back into the past, other aliens frozen will be thawed out and will take over. I believe the future army created the jump links from salvaging technology from the crashed alien ship, not 30 years of advancing technology. And this is because Colonel Forrester said the Whitespikes just showed up one day. You mean to tell me that the Whitespikes were wreaking havoc and the future army had time to create the jump link over water and develop those dams, plus come up with toxins to kill the males and understand some things about the females, I believe the future society discovered the alien ship, wanted to salvage the technology, and freed the Whitespikes accidentally or on purpose as a weapon. At the end of the movie, when the oil rig is overrun, at that point, unless there's other armies and other stations out there and civilizations and encampments, at that point the Whitespikes have won. They've overrun the oil rig and the Whitespikes dominate the earth. Going back into the past and destroying that ship and killing the Whitespikes, that was a part of an alternate universe because the future soldiers did not disappear. Now we don't have Back to the Future rules or Grandfather Paradox rules. We have Marvel time travel rules where you go back in the past, you change something, it creates an alternate dimension. I believe that this is a time loop. Even though Dan or someone lives and dies, the future army or the future soldiers always jump link back to the past to get soldiers to refight the same war over and over again. Every time something in the past is changed, it becomes an alternate reality. So I wouldn't be surprised if for the movie they developed a toxin to kill the males and the female, but in another dimension or another timeline there was no toxins that were created. They were able to isolate the females, kill off the males, and that was the end of the war. Another timeline, the Whitespikes just overran the future army and the people from the past were just killed off and the jump link was destroyed. So on and so forth. There's a whole bunch of time loops, and every time you go through a time loop sequence, another reality is created. In the end, the humans do not win at the end of the Tomorrow War, and the extinction of the human race is inevitable.